Joining us now to break this down is Professor of Internet Law at George Mason University's Scalia Law School. We have Carl Szabo, along with Distinguished Professor at Touro University, Thane Rosenbaum, and a very special welcome to our special guest, former federal prosecutor Doug Burns. Thane, I want to kick it off with you. Were you surprised by this appointment? Obviously, David Weiss is scheduled to testify sometime in September before the House Judiciary Committee. Republicans believe he's critical to their investigation and their understanding of what's transpired out of the Delaware case, why it was a couple misdemeanor charges versus some felonies. Talk to me a little bit about your reaction.
Well, Kilmeny, he's not testifying now. If I was him, I was going to go, I said I was going to testify, but that the investigation was over at that point, and I was going to tell you what happened. But I'm raring to go, and I have a new investigation. I'm busy. I can't come to see you. I was surprised at the announcement. I was watching it again. I mean, it looked like Merrick Garland was having a colonoscopy. It didn't look like he was actually doing a press conference. It was a prepared text. He essentially said, which I thought was surprising, that David Weiss came to him and said, I would like to continue to investigate. Why didn't Merrick Garland on his own say, the American people have lost confidence in the independence of the Justice Department? We look like we engaged in preferential treatment. We have to, we have to make a statement and show that we're prepared to investigate not just Hunter Biden, but anything with the last name Biden, if there's any potential of corruption. That's not what he said. He said, David Weiss came to me. And again, usually independent counsels are special independent. What makes them special is that they have no connection to the government or the investigation that they're investigating. He's coming back to do the job that he already failed at. And so now the question is, was he so embarrassed that he wants to be tough now on Hunter Biden? Or is this just damage control and there's a limit to how much he's willing to take this case and certainly not extend it to the Biden family?
Yeah, Carl, I don't know how we square the IRS whistleblower testimony with what we heard about how Weiss wasn't allowed to go there. They weren't allowed to investigate the big guy. He was told he didn't have special counsel powers. And then you have a request from Weiss to Merrick Garland, and Merrick Garland saying after that this plea deal falls apart, he essentially says, I want to be special counsel. Garland says, okay.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, let's be clear. Anyone Merrick Garland picked was probably going to upset a lot of people. But this was potentially one of the worst picks because he managed to upset all the people. And I say that because David Weiss has already had his shot. He created this absurd plea deal with Hunter Biden where he would be let off the hook for millions of dollars in tax evasion, for illegally possessing a firearm, the types of felonies that would send anybody to prison if their last name weren't Biden. And now he's put in charge of this special counsel prosecution. The purpose of government is to serve the people, not to serve the president. And public service, public trust, as was just identified, the trust in the Department of Justice is hitting historic lows. And you don't reaffirm that trust. You don't give confidence to the American people that there are not these multi-tiered systems of justice by putting somebody who created this absurd plea deal in the position of special counsel. So there's a lot of stuff that's going all over the place. It's going wrong. And we really need the House of Representatives to do the hard work, do the labor, and keep going and keep digging to really unearth the truth behind all of this cover-up.
Doug, I want to get your take.
Well, first of all, the regulations in the Code of Federal Regulations, you've seen bandied about the internet, the actual section, Title 28, Section 600.3. It says that the independent or special counsel shall be picked from outside the government. So the first question we all have to ask is, how did they get away with this? The question is, who enforces that? Ironically, the agency that the regulation covers enforces it. So DOJ has to enforce it. So DOJ ain't going to enforce it. So that's really remarkable, number one. Number two, even if you were going to violate that CFR provision, this is the last person you would pick. He's had the case all along, and he presided over a plea deal that was uniformly criticized and vilified. So it's a terrible, terrible choice, Kilmeny.
Thane, I want to pivot to, again, the hearing that we had yesterday out of Washington, D.C. This is Jack Smith's investigation into alleged attempts by the former president to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. There's a protective order that's been put in place. Doesn't appear like it was a huge win or loss for either side. Some compromises were made. How do you see this impacting the president, particularly what he may be able to say when he addresses the crowd later in Iowa today?
So, Kilmeny, the judge essentially said, I recognize you have a First Amendment right, but it's not unlimited. And I understand you're running for president. One of the things that she said that I thought was troubling for Donald Trump, she said, I'm not treating your presidential campaign unlike any other day job, as if that's your day job and that has nothing to do with what I'm doing here. I thought that was a surprising remark. Remember, the judge in Florida, when she initially had the case, when it was just a civil case, before it was brought as a criminal proceeding, and the government said, nobody stands above the law, everyone treated the same, that judge said, no, Donald Trump is in a league of his own. That's the words she used. He's in a league of his own. He's the president of the United States. And I thought that was what was interesting, what you heard yesterday. She's saying, I don't care that you're running for presidency. And so I think that is significant about what
she says she wants to keep politics out of it. We'll have to see if that's what actually happens. Gentlemen, this always goes by too fast. We're out of time. Carl Szabo, Thane Rosenbaum, thank you so much.